Wisdom beyond 60, dear everyone. I hope this moment finds you in good health, with a calm heart and steady breath. Today, I want to begin with a quiet question. A question that might feel like it comes from deep inside your chest, the part of you that rarely speaks up but always feels. Have you ever looked around after the noise of life has faded, after the children have grown, the holidays passed, and the house feels too quiet, and wondered, what happened to me? Not in a bitter way, but in a deeply honest way. You gave it all, every ounce of energy, every worry, every late-night prayer. You put yourself second, third, sometimes last, so your family could have more, grow stronger, live better. And now, who's giving to you? This isn't a video about sadness. It's a moment of truth, of awakening. Sometimes after a lifetime of caring for others, we forget how to care for ourselves. Or worse, we think we're not supposed to. That asking for love or attention at this stage in life is selfish or embarrassing or unnecessary. But let me ask you something else. If your best friend came to you and said, "I feel invisible," would you tell them to keep quiet? Of course not. You'd tell them they matter, that they deserve to be seen, heard, and cared for. So why is it so hard to believe that about ourselves? The truth is, aging isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a new chapter. And maybe, just maybe, this is the chapter where you finally start to receive some of what you've given so freely to others for so long. Not just kindness from others, but kindness from yourself. Permission to rest, to be joyful, to speak up, to be curious again. You are not done. You are not invisible. And you are certainly not a burden. The heart of today's message is this. You gave everything to your family. Now it's your turn to be poured into, to be cherished, to be reminded that you still matter deeply. If this message is speaking to something inside of you right now, please consider subscribing to this channel. It's more than a channel. It's a place where your story is respected, your journey is honored, and your future still holds possibility. Your support keeps this space alive. And now, I'd like to hear from you. Think about this question and share your answer in the comments. Which feels more true to you right now? A, I feel seen, valued, and supported by the people around me. B, I often feel overlooked, unappreciated, or alone. Type A or B in the comments, and know that whatever you choose, you're not alone. Thank you for still being here. Now let's talk about something that many people never say out loud, but quietly carry every single day, the feeling of becoming invisible. Not in a dramatic way, but in the small, ordinary moments. When you walk into a room and no one notices. When someone talks to you like you're fragile or out of touch, or when your reflection in the mirror no longer feels like someone the world finds important. After a lifetime of showing up for others, it's easy to let yourself slip into the background. Maybe you've stopped getting dressed up unless it's for something important. Maybe you don't bother with a new haircut or putting on your favorite shade of lipstick or shaving that old stubble. Maybe you think, why should I care? Who's looking anyway? But here's the truth. You should care. Not because of what others think, but because of what you feel when you look at yourself. Taking care of your appearance isn't about vanity. It's about dignity. It's about reminding yourself that you're still alive, still valuable, still part of this world. When you take a moment to put on something you love, or comb your hair just right, or even smile at your own reflection, you send a quiet but powerful message to your own soul. I matter. I once spoke to a woman named Clara, who was 74. She told me she hadn't bought new clothes in over 10 years. Everything I do now is just about staying comfortable, she said. One day, her granddaughter gave her a bright scarf, something soft, colorful, completely different. I didn't think it was for me, Clara admitted, but she wore it. And when she caught her reflection in a shop window later that week, she said she smiled, not because she looked young again, but because she looked like someone who still cared. And that's really the point. Self-neglect slowly erodes our sense of identity. But even the smallest act of care, a splash of color, a dab of perfume, a fresh shirt, can begin to bring you back to yourself. You don't have to impress anyone. You just have to reconnect with the person you've always been inside. So today, take 5 minutes just for you. not out of obligation, not because someone's coming over, but because you deserve to feel good in your own skin. You gave so much to others. Now, it's time to give a little back to yourself. And sometimes, the very first step to feeling visible again is simply seeing yourself. There's a quiet trap many people fall into as they grow older. It's not visible, and you won't notice it right away. But one day, you might find yourself correcting someone mid-sentence, cutting them off because what they're saying feels wrong to you, or maybe even feeling frustrated that no one seems to listen anymore. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. But here's a truth worth exploring. Sometimes, the harder we try to be right, the further we push people away. It's a subtle thing. When you've lived through decades of experience, when you've weathered storms and solved problems and built a life, of course, you've learned a thing or two. You've earned your wisdom. But the challenge comes when wisdom turns into something rigid, something that forgets how to listen. And the sad part is, it usually doesn't come from pride. It comes from a deep desire to still be seen, to still be heard, to still matter in a world that sometimes makes older people feel invisible. At Beyond 60 Wisdom, dear friends, we know how easy it is to slip into that pattern. You want your children or grandchildren to learn from your experience, and sometimes that turns into trying to prove a point or correct them too quickly. But the greatest wisdom isn't just in what you say, it's in knowing when not to say it. I once met a man named Charles. He was a retired teacher, 78 years old, sharp as ever. But he told me he had grown distant from his grandkids. "They don't want to talk to me anymore," he said. "They roll their eyes when I speak." When we talked more, it became clear that Charles often interrupted conversations to add his opinion, to correct a fact, or to tell a better version of someone else's story. Not out of meanness, but from wanting to stay connected. But ironically, it was pushing them away. So he tried something different. He started listening more, really listening. He let his grandkids explain things he already knew, asked questions without correcting the answers, and let conversations breathe. Slowly, the connection returned. He told me, "I still say what I think, but I wait now, and I listen first." That's what this part of life invites us to do. Soften, not shrink. Be strong, but not stubborn, because people don't always need your answers. Sometimes they just need your presence. They need to feel safe around you, not like they're being judged or corrected all the time. You can still share your wisdom, but the way you share it makes all the difference. When you listen first, people open up. When you let go of always needing to be right, you make room for love to grow. And in the end, it's not about winning conversations. It's about staying close to the people you love. There's something about familiarity that can be both comforting and dangerous. As we grow older, we tend to cling to routines that make us feel safe. Same breakfast, same walking route, same TV shows, same faces. And there's nothing wrong with having a rhythm to your days. But when routine becomes repetition, and repetition turns into resistance, we can quietly lose the spark that once made life feel vibrant. Think about it. When was the last time you tried something completely new? Not something big, not something expensive, just new. It could be reading a different kind of book, joining a group you've never tried, learning how to use a new piece of technology. These little changes may seem small, but they carry big meaning. At Beyond 60 Wisdom, we've seen time and time again that it's not age that slows people down. It's fear. Fear of looking silly, fear of failing, fear of stepping outside the box. And that fear, if left unchallenged, builds walls around you until your world gets smaller, not because it has to, but because you stopped exploring it. I remember hearing about a woman named Ruth. She was 75 and had never used a smartphone. Her grandson offered to teach her, but she always waved him off. "It's too late for me," she'd say. But one day she gave in, not because she had to, but because she wanted to surprise her friend with a birthday video call. That little act opened the door to a whole new world. Ruth started messaging friends, sharing photos, and reconnecting with people she hadn't talked to in years. "I didn't know I could still learn," she told her family. But she could, and she did. That's the message I want to share with you. You are still capable of growth, still capable of laughter, curiosity, and wonder. Your age doesn't disqualify you from life. In fact, it qualifies you more than ever to explore it with grace, patience, and wisdom. but it starts with one brave decision to try something different. So next time you catch yourself saying, "That's not for me," pause. Ask yourself if it's really not for you, or if you've just told yourself that for so long it feels true. Because the truth is, your story isn't over, and every chapter you write now still counts. Stay open, stay curious, and remember, your best days don't have to be behind you. They can still be ahead. There's a kind of quiet pride that comes with age, the kind that says, "I've made it this far on my own, I can handle the rest." But sometimes that same pride turns into a wall we build around ourselves. And while it might feel like strength on the outside, it often hides something else underneath. Fear of being a burden, of appearing weak, of admitting we can't do everything alone anymore. But let me ask you something from the heart. When did asking for help become something to be ashamed of? At Beyond 60 Wisdom, we've heard too many stories of people who tried to carry everything alone: groceries, grief, health worries, even loneliness, because they didn't want to trouble anyone. They didn't want to admit they needed a hand, and unfortunately, many of them paid the price. A small trip turns into a big fall. A missed doctor's visit becomes a larger health scare. Silence becomes isolation. But here's the truth. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of wisdom. It means you care enough about yourself and about those who care about you to stay safe, stay well, and stay connected. And beyond that, when you accept help, you give a gift. You give others the chance to show their love, their care, their presence. It's how bonds grow stronger. Your daughter may feel more connected just by picking up your prescriptions. Your neighbor might find purpose in mowing your lawn. Your grandson may feel trusted when you ask him to teach you something new on your phone. There's no shame in needing help. In fact, it takes real courage to admit, "I could use a hand." And in doing so, you remind everyone around you that strength isn't about doing it all alone. It's about knowing when to lean on others. I once heard a man say, "I spent my life providing for everyone. Now that I'm older, I thought I had to prove I was still self-sufficient. But the truth is, letting others give back to me was the best gift I could give them." His family didn't see him as weaker. They saw him as open, real, human. So if you've been carrying everything on your own shoulders, maybe it's time to let some of it go. Let someone in. Let someone help. Not because you can't do it, but because you don't have to do it all alone. This chapter of life was never meant to be walked alone. Let others walk it with you. By now, you've probably realized this isn't just a video. It's a mirror. A quiet moment of truth between you and yourself. You've spent your life pouring into others. You held their hands through fear, fed them when they were hungry, stayed awake through nights of worry so they could sleep soundly. You didn't ask for applause. You didn't expect repayment. You did it because that's who you are. But in all that giving, you may have forgotten something. You matter too. Too often, we confuse selflessness with self-erasure. We think if we put ourselves last, that's the way it's supposed to be. But what if this stage of your life, this chapter, right here, isn't about fading into the background? What if it's about finally coming home to yourself? You don't need to chase youth or pretend to be someone you're not. What you need and deserve is to feel seen again, to feel like your voice still matters, your opinions still count, your days still hold meaning. And they do. You just have to believe it again. You have to look at yourself not as someone who's done giving, but as someone who still has more to live, more to feel, more to offer, not just to others, but to yourself. Maybe it's time to take better care of your body, not to turn back the clock, but to walk into your future stronger. Maybe it's time to forgive, to reconnect, to allow someone else to carry the groceries or listen to your stories. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to know we're meant to walk this road together. The biggest lesson, life after 60 isn't the end. It's an invitation, a new kind of beginning, one where you finally get to give to yourself in the way you've given to others. And when you do, something beautiful happens. You start to feel alive again. Not just surviving, but truly living. So let me gently ask, if you had one more chance to choose joy, peace, or purpose, what would you choose today? Please take a moment to share your answer in the comments. Which one do you choose? Joy, peace, or purpose? And why? If this video touched your heart, made you feel understood, or gave you something to think about, please consider subscribing to our channel. It helps us grow, and it gives us the strength to keep creating meaningful content just for you. Leave a comment, let us know what's on your mind, or simply share your story. And don't forget, you're not alone. We're here with you every step of the way. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for spending your time with Beyond 60 Wisdom. We cherish your presence, your thoughts, and your spirit. Let's keep walking together, one honest conversation at a time.